Guys, I have to start over. Just about all the work that we've done up to this point is now void, and I have to hope that a good amount of the functions are salvageable. Okay, let me explain. So I knew that from the very beginning that at some point I was going to have to do a graphics overhaul. I've even mentioned this in previous episodes. And with that overhaul, I was going to have to tweak some functions that took me quite a while to figure out. Which I've always dreaded, because if this tweaking process broke something, I wasn't looking forward to having to go through code stabilizing those systems again. And with that, I largely danced around one of the most important things that needed updating, which has led us to today, where I have to start over almost completely. But why, you ask? Well, here's the story. I was working on making a video about Staggered for my main channel, because I just launched the Staggered Steam page. Go hit that up if you haven't already, please wishlist it, and I wanted to promote it a bit. So the idea was I was going to add a tournament feature, and then use that new feature using all the characters in Staggered with AI to play each other, demonstrating the interesting process of adding new features in late game development. Simple enough, right? Well, that's what I thought. So I mock up a little UI on how this is going to work in game and all that good stuff, and then I go to make the actual UI. That's when I realized an error that has been hidden since the beginning of developing this game. The scaling of everything was way off. Look here, this here is the size that my character is supposed to be, and then this is the size that it currently is. My goodness. Now, it may not seem obvious, but believe it or not, developing everything on a scale larger than it's supposed to be can create some very strange errors. And damn it, I should have known. I mean, check this out. Way back when I first started working on Staggered, the speed was crazy slow, and I was never really sure why. My lazy workaround was just to speed up the physics simulation, which kind of does solve the issue in regard to motion, but many things were still off, like the physics calculations, meaning camera fog, lighting, and shadows, for example. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Jabro, you have the answer right there. Look, the rig is the appropriate size and it seems to be working well. Why don't you just continue the game from that rig? Well, my investigative friend, while you are correct, changing the scale of everything made me add even more sloppy spaghetti code on top of my already sloppy spaghetti code. And a lot of the functionality from the old system needed to be tweaked again. It just didn't make sense to essentially start over using this prototype rig. And so I thought, if I'm gonna do this again, I might as well just do it with the official art assets this time. But, lesson learned. Never develop without a 1x1x1 meter reference cube, or something like that. Anywho, I just wanted to make this episode to fill you in on the status of things, and inform you that progress is about to become a crawl. I of course branched my repository for this project, and have since got to work on starting over almost from scratch. But, believe it or not, it's been way more fun than I imagined. Never thought I'd say that about starting over with anything. Unlike when I started, I now have a much better idea on how to work with the physics engine. I know what features will be added later, and can plan out my new coding workflow according to those features. And this process has just been really fun and really exciting. I don't quite understand it. I've so far spent an entire week writing a single 400-line function that allows me to assemble an Android from scratch. I mean, it has a tremendous importance when it comes to Staggered, so I think it deserves the time. Instead of rushing to finish a system because I'm antsy to get to work on the next thing, I'm willing to spend another 7 to 14 days focused on that same function if need be. Because the truth is, the more robust this function is, the easier it will be for me to add new features later. I'm so happy to be filling this, and so glad to have learned this lesson. But yeah, I've just been taking my time making sure everything is extremely robust and is exactly as I need it, so that in the future I will have these beautiful functions that can handle anything that I throw at them, producing absolutely no bugs.